It's the Undress Show. Yes, it's Wednesday night Undress. Here we are again, sat in front of an audience filled as one with the expectation and excitement of a teenager on Christmas Eve. Yes, that youthful amazement of what the fuck am I doing here when I could be in a bar if I wasn't a teenager and if my parents didn't hate me and my spoilt half-sister gets the best presents. I want to be at Conroy's Emporium, where you can catch anything your heart desires. Now, my fellow undressed, yes, it's me, Jeremy Taylor, your English Brexited host, and my job is to attempt to bring some semblance of credibility, a soupçon of amusement and light to the shadows and the mundane reality that's become our lives here in the back of Conroy's. Yes, as we look around and reflect on what we did to end up here, it's not made any easier, as we all realise that we are in fact here voluntarily. The rotting floorboards, the chairs with the nails sticking through the seats, those old steak fries, creaking fans and no air conditioning. Ah, happy times. But I digress. On our naked and not very undressed panel today, the very wise Dr. Orlando, the indefatigable Kathleen Taylor, and myself, Jeremy Taylor. First, I do know that you like to know what's been going on at Conroy's Bar during the week. Well, as you know, Conroy talks to lots of people and is often an inspiration to those he talks to. And I mean inspiration. In fact, he was only telling some of his patrons on Tuesday what he would have said in his own words at the audience, or to the audience, at the Republican convention.
Really?
You know, Conroy, he said, from a young age I was impressed with values that you work hard for what you want in life, that your word is your bond and you do what you say, that you treat people with respect. And I've passed on to my children and the generations of Conroys that will follow, because we want our children and all the children in this nation to know that the only limit to your achievements is the strength of your dream and your willingness to work to own a bar like this one. So said Conroy in his own words. But we need to get on with the show.
You'd think they'd have noticed Melania Trump in the background there, listening to all that.
What? No, this is what Conroy said.
Uh-huh.
No, Conroy said this. This is what he said.
I believe you.
He did. He said that. No.
Well, the one thing I can say for sure is that we know that Trump does not have the absolute best people in his corner for his campaign.
You think?
I think. So, yeah, but, in the scheme of things, that is... I'm not sure that if I was Melania giving that same speech that I would have even had thought to ask, did you copy this from somebody else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they are a group that avoids the Obamas like the plague and doesn't want to have anything to do with the Obamas, I'm not sure that they would even think to review her speech to make sure that they're not given the same one.
They didn't avoid the Obamas like the plague, or the Clintons. They were quite good friends up until fairly recently. And Melania admires Michelle Obama. So,
However,
I mean, it's understandable.
Let's move on with the show. It is quite obvious that there has been a pokey
Have another drink,
apocalypse.
I would agree.
A pokey apocalypse all over the place. We have, in fact, gone Poco-free zones in my office, a Pokemon-free zone. We have a young lady who works with us who looks for Pokemon while she's trying to sell houses at the same time. Pokemon Go, like religion, intrudes into other people's lives, other people who don't want to know. Why should they have to put up with those intrusions?
Good question. Why should they have to put up with those intrusions? Because the people doing it are about 17 years old mentally. Is there any other explanation?
I was just asked if I wanted a refill. This is how much I care about what we're talking about. Lewis, you're a Pokemon person.
Hunter.
You're a pokey person.
Yes.
Is that the right phrase, a pokey person?
I have no idea. I literally just downloaded the app just to see what all the fuss was about. I have mixed feelings. Okay, here's what I think. I'm not going to mince words.
Okay, don't mince words.
If you have Pokemon on your personal property, then you should have the ability to keep people from having Pokemon on your personal property.
They're yours, huh?
No. You should be able to opt out and say, I don't want my personal property to be associated with this game.
So how would you do that?
You call the designers and say, you currently are using the area that I personally own as a place that either allows the Pokemon to reside there, or in my personal case, to regenerate from my personal house.
Because you're a spawning
I am a
point,
spawn
aren't you?
point.
Could you explain? I'm not too sure about using the word spawn. Just a moment. I just need to. Are we allowed to use that word?
Spawn?
That is one of the words we can
No.
use. We can't.
We can, you can't.
Okay, we can use. All right. So, okay, now we know we can use that word on broadcast, because if you don't want the FCC crawling all over us. What is this freaking thing that
Okay.
people are?
It's an augmented reality game. I love augmented reality games.
What the fuck is an augmented pokepocalypse?
I'm getting there. Calm down there,
Well,
Britt.
you know, I Brexited. I don't have to put up with this. I'm a Brexited person.
Okay, augmented reality means you use the real world around you as a playing field for your game. In the case of Pokemon, they actually overlay Pokemon creatures, the digital representation of the creature, onto a picture that you're taking with your phone. More germane to my point is the game uses real-life landmarks to determine where Pokemon either regenerate or just reside. So I can walk down the street and there are Pokemon that have spawned from somebody's house or from a church or something like that, and those Pokemon basically try to hide or just hang out where they're at, and the Pokemon hunters then come in and try to catch them.
How does one capture a Pokemon?
The physical mechanics are that you have a ball on your screen, on the screen of your phone, and you essentially flick the ball.
You flick the ball using your finger on your screen.
On your screen.
Which actually gives you the image of a ball going and hitting a little Pokemon.
There's a little yellow circle that appears on the Pokemon itself, and if your ball lands within that yellow square, you have then caught that Pokemon.
And Jeremy thinks people should be able to opt out
That
of
is
having
exactly-
Pokemon on their property. Don't you think it might be wiser to require that people opt in?
People do opt.
Because what if you're an elderly couple in a cottage that you don't do computers, you don't do cell phones, and you find all of a sudden you're surrounded by a dozen people because there's been a rare Pokemon. Well, how in the world were they supposed to know to use their cell phone to call and opt out?
I like that. I like the notion that in order to have your house be used as a focal point in the game, that you have to opt in. In the original version of the game, which is one that it's a prototype of the Pokemon game. It's a game called Ingress, and I've played it since it was announced. It's based entirely on public areas. So, for instance, the train in the park in Lawrence is a spawn point for this game Ingress. So I walk over to the train, I turn on my phone, turn on my little game, and I can then play Capture the Portal in this other game. The problem that I have with Pokemon is that we don't have that same mechanic of having the spots opted into or even opted out of once they've been chosen, as we do with Ingress. So yeah, for me, that would be absolutely fantastic. If there was some way that if I could write to the designers and say, hey, I don't want strange people coming up to my house at all hours of the night. Please remove my house as a Pokemon spawning point. Or I could say, hey, I'm very interested in the game and I would love to have people come and play. Go ahead and make my house a spawning point, which is exactly the mechanics that exist in the other game.
Sure. Well, requiring people to make an extraordinary effort of some sort, and extraordinary depends on your point of view, to keep people away from invading their privacy is going to lead to lawsuits, besides all the various deaths it's already led to. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing progresses.
But the thing that Jeremy's question from the beginning, if I understood it properly, was why do you have to put up with people playing Pokemon at work?
Well, whether it's work or what have you, it's like a religion. It's like someone saying, we live in America, therefore you will be a Christian. And you can go to church. And
Not sure how we got there either.
Yeah, I really want to retrace the logic that brought us from playing
because it's
Pokemon.
intruding into other people's lives without their permission.
What's intruding into other people's lives?
Pokemon, like religion does.
It intrudes into other people's lives.
It intrudes into other people's lives. If you live in certain parts
religion
of
does?
Syria, right? ISIS, who believe in things they believe in,
Believe me, religion intrudes.
they
Yeah, but it's a much more spurious intrusion. In one case, I'm not even sure. I'm sorry, I'm having a difficult time making that leap of logic that Pokemon is in any way, shape, or form like a religion.
as Kathleen
Oh.
said, it's
Oh,
not
that's a-
involved.
That's a natural
Talk
correlation
to me.
there.
Talk to me. Tell me
Okay,
more.
Pokemon like a religion. You got your rules. You've got your quest. You've got your time needed and your utter concentration and your dedication to the thing. It is so much like a religion.
Sorry, not buying it.
Okay. Well,
Well, I'm
it's
sorry.
not an exact match,
I'm
okay?
sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but it's got a lot of the same elements.
So, and here's my problem with,
Yeah.
with that notion of Pokemon as religion. Typically in religion, at least for those of us that would complain about religion, it is the religious zealots who are intruding.
So you don't think it's the Pokemon zealots that are intruding?
Well, the way that the religious zealots intrude is to force you to act according to the rules of their religion. That's not what's going on in Pokemon. The Pokemon players just happen to be in your proximity.
Well, how about when you have to jump out of the way of a car being driven by a person playing Pokemon? They're
You
kind of
have to-
forcing you to.
You have to move out of the way of a car being driven by a person that's not paying attention, whether or not they're playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
So Pokemon, again, is just the symptom, maybe not the disease itself.
It's one of the causes.
It's one of the causes. But for me, that doesn't... I mean, for me, when we talk about religion and why, religion is sometimes a bad thing, it is the way that religion is structured. Like, the notion of religion is, A, you have to follow this set of rules. B, you have to impress upon people how important it is for them to follow your own set of rules.
Do you think that there is a possibility that the Pokemon playing community could develop more into a religion?
Oh, that is a hypothetical that is without question possible. I think
Eric's with us. Eric, would you ever consider playing Pokemon to become a compulsion that you had to do in order to appease the gods or something? I don't know what. Would it ever become like the requirements of a religion?
I think it has a cult following. I think the people who play it
Okay.
it very devoutly.
Cult is a good word on that, yeah.
And I think they play by the rules, and they're seeking something. They're seeking constant evolution within the game, or seeking salvation, I guess, as a religion would put it. Or the top
They're
prize.
seeking winning, which could be equated with salvation, couldn't it? I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. These are all very. Put it this way, I like the notion. I like the structure that we have designed for the Poke Apocalypse. But I'm not.
Hey, if Scientology can become a religion, why not Pokemon?
Because Scientology was structured as a religion. So, sorry, I got to get closer to my mic. Hey there, Mike. How you doing? No, Scientology was structured as religion, and there's absolutely no way to discount the possibility that 500 years from now we are all going to be, praying to a giant statue of Pikachu. I don't have a problem with saying that. It's a Pokemon thing. You wouldn't understand. So, and it's entirely possible, but there is a structure to religion, and a form and an appeal. Excuse me. For me, that is different in its nature than what's going on with Pokemon. I do think it's cult-like. I do think that there is an addictive quality to it. In fact, I could probably talk for days on the whole nature of game design and how
But it
games
does
are
lack
no
a
longer
central
fun.
figure, doesn't it?
No.
Leading figure.
A messiah figure.
I'm thinking Jeremy.
I like Jeremy.
Yeah.
I
I'm
like
thinking
the notion
Jeremy in a
of
loincloth.
digital projection that can appear in any photo that I take at any time on
Yeah.
my phone, in various manly poses.
Yes, he's got lots of manly poses.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to know this.
After I watched Stephen Colbert the other night, I'm more feeling that he should, in fact, be standing for president. He was actually up on the Trumpodium on Monday night before he was removed by the Secret Service. I just wondered, it's about intruding. Some people have used it about the religious right, the far right. They've actually used the word Taliban in America.
Right.
The religious right American Taliban.
Right. I like that phrase.
The people who are saying this is how we should be and we must and everything else.
Whenever you have a group of people that says, this is how I want to behave and I want everybody else to behave this way too, or you will face dire consequences, I think that that's a reasonable claim to make. I think that analogy for religious right and Taliban is, there's no such thing as a purely perfect analogy, but that's a pretty damn good one for me.
Do you know that under that definition, Mike Pence is a member of the Christian Taliban? Did you know that in his state he managed to pass a law that was so strict on women that they were required to bury or cremate their periods if there was a chance that it contained a fertilized egg.
How
It
do you
led to the
cremate your
Periods
period?
for Pence movement,
I've
in
s-
which
I've-
I think people may have mailed their certain articles to him. I
The
think that
tweets
got
are
messy.
fantastic. Hey,
Yeah.
Mike, I saw one that says, hey, Mike, I'm 45 years old and I'm about to enter the change. Do you have any advice for me and what I should do with my vagina?
His advice would probably be just, go off and die. There's no more use for you, woman. Yeah.
Which leads us to another subject, and I'm interested in this because of the people we've got sat around this table. During my teenage years, I didn't like or trust the police. They were out to get me. I was routinely stopped on the way home, suspected of dealing drugs, which I never did. They left me alone only when my father spoke to the chief constable, something to do with Masons. This was in England, of course. I'm white, they were white, and I found myself wondering how much of the angst between the community and the police actually has to do with a person's colour. In my case, the length of my hair. Or is it deep down in reality more about humans simply not liking to be told what to do by authority figures? Deep down.
I don't think so. I think that there are documented, verifiable, confirmable instances of people of a particular race or a particular caste or particular whatever, particular quality you want to pick on being overly policed. In our case right now, I think it's people with my gift of melanin that are...
And in Jeremy's case, in the defense of the police force in England, have you guys seen his passport photo from those years?
Well, just look at him now.
Oh, well, I know, but then he was a really creepy-looking dude, man. He had this long hair and this weird little mustache, beard that went around, and he looked like he was dealing drugs. I mean,
We
really.
need to see that picture. Can I have that picture? I'm going to put it on the website.
It exists.
Oh, yeah.
I've
Eric's
bore
seen
witness
it.
to it.
And
Yes.
true, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, in their defense, they were suspicious for probably good reason. You looked creepy.
Yeah,
Now,
it's-
is that what happens here?
I think so. There was one day Tom and I had and I'm talking about Tom Conroy, the owner of the bar. He and I had a discussion when the kid that stole the cigarettes got shot.
Yeah.
And the common refrain was that kid was a thug.
Oh, God.
And that's just one of those things that's ingrained in us within the media and again, it's one of those things that if you're not aware that you should be looking for it, you will never see it. And once you have an entrenched position on the argument, it becomes really, really easy to avoid. But the notion that you could call a 16-year-old kid a thug and somehow have that be rationale for killing him escapes people.
Yeah.
I don't think that that is an issue of someone not wanting to be told what to do. I think that is an issue of institutionalized penalization for a particular physical trait.
Yeah.
And
You just had to say it, didn't you? Why can't we get through anything without you mentioning your penis?
What?
because I love my penis. Have you seen it?
Why do you have to
Yeah,
come
have
up
you?
with penicilization? I mean, really?
I do not know how we got there. How did we get
You
that
two are
point?
terrible.
That's what she said.
There's, I mean, for goodness sake, a little less of this pornography on our website.
And that's not to say that there's not a lot of policing that needs to go on. You go back to my hometown, and when they call a curfew, the first thing that you'll hear the adults say is "Thank God for this curfew," because these goddamn kids don't know how to act.
Yeah.
But it is without question a double-sided issue.
Yeah.
Like, if the cops stop policing so much, the crime will go down and the cops won't have to police so much. Or if the crime goes down, the cops don't have to police so much and then the crime goes down. However you want to look at it, it's the answer will undoubtedly happen from both sides.
Do you agree that racism is systemic
Racism, by definition,
in the
has to
police
be
forces
systemic.
across?
That is a difficult question to answer, only because I am not privy to the actual documents and charters that put together police departments.
Are there documents enough? Do documents exist that number the incidents? Do
No.
police even
No.
have to report when they've killed somebody?
No. In fact, right now, The Guardian has probably the best accounting of police deaths for the last 2 years. It is I don't know what the name of that long profile article creation that newspapers do, but the Guardian has started compiling lists of all reported deaths of individuals while in police custody.
Yeah, and a lot of police departments do not have to report them. So
Correct.
probably the worst are not getting added into those totals.
It's not even a question of the worst; it's a question of how many are not being added into
Yeah.
those totals.
Yet, a police chief somewhere in the Republican convention has said that Hillary Clinton is an evil person because she said that racism is systemic in the police force. And he said that means she just called every single police officer in the country a racist. That's not true. He really needs to look up the definition of systemic. He obviously doesn't understand words of 3 syllables.
I agree, but I think his point.
Racism in the police, just the police, if you take the police across the country, is a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah.
That's just, that's
It
Right, but we
exists
keep
in
talking
places.
about
It's not
this
everywhere, but it exists.
We keep talking about it as an all or nothing proposition. Either there is no
It's not.
racism in the police department, or there's absolute racism in every police department. Or it's taken to the extreme, every policeman is racist. I don't believe either of those to be true.
True. I agree with you. Yeah.
My problem, and this is just me, and sorry that I'm talking so much. I like the sound of my voice. I repeat that every so often. My problem is that there's that saying of the thin blue line. There are police on this side, and there's civilians on the other side. And as long as police are willing to protect other police, regardless of what kinds of crime infractions the other police are committing, or
Yeah. You've put your finger on it. It's the protection
she said.
factor.
Sorry.
Oh, jeez.
You're going penis again, aren't you? You are. I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
That is, for me, that is the problem. A symptom of that problem is the lack of community policing. For me, a symptom of the problem, and the problem for me is that there's this thin blue line that people are so very proud of, the symptom of that is the lack of the community policing. Once we got rid of the community patrolling of policemen, we actually entrenched that thin blue line to say there's going to be police that do bad things, and you guys will have to just leave it up to us to take care of them.
Yeah.
We are not going to be watching our police. We're not going to give the community the opportunity to watch the police. We're just going to have the police come in and be an authority figure, and you guys are going to have to trust us that they're all on the up and up.
But this is where
Yeah.
I'm coming from. You know, I'm late middle-aged, live in a nice house with a swimming
Middle-aged?
pool.
Late middle age. We're old.
Okay, I'm an old fuck. But I grew up hating the police and knowing that the police were out to get me, and they were every night, night after night after night. It wasn't just 3 nights. This
Sounds
was
a little bit paranoid there.
right. Yeah, and I think when I watched today, in the middle of July, after the police shootings in Dallas and Baton Rouge and various other
Kansas City,
places.
That was
Kansas City the other night, police officer died. I have to be very careful to say, well, actually, he wasn't targeted. Of course he was targeted.
I know. There's
You know,
absolutely, for me, there's absolutely no differentiation between the Kansas City killing and the other killings outside of the fact.
While it is all right for 3 officers to beat the shit out of a black guy next to his car
Oh, right.
when they didn't think they were being watched, and unfortunately for them, they were being filmed on a surveillance camera, not on a phone, on a surveillance camera, right? And the film was made public, and the police chief said it didn't happen. Then he was shown the film, and well, we better suspend these officers.
On full pay,
What
probably.
the fuck?
But what else do you do?
You fire them.
But you can't fire them
Why not?
Why not?
because there has to be an actual process by which you investigate what those officers did. Like if the police chief suspended those guys after watching the video, he did the best possible thing. It tears at us in our stomach to think that they're still getting paid while such a horrible charge is levied against them. But if we
Overland Park, Kansas City police chief, or the Lenexa police chief, I don't know which one, when a police officer had a go at a girl on Facebook and said, you better watch yourself and watch your family and all this sort of thing. As soon as he found out about it, initially it went to their complaints department. It survived the complaints department for about an hour, and then he fired the guy.
right.
The guy was done at the end of the day. And what I'm saying is, you beat up somebody, you're done. Now, if someone shoots at you, you shoot back. Fine.
I disagree.
Headshot.
I disagree.
As far as I'm
I
concerned,
literally
These guys
disagree.
get put on suspension. Time enough elapses. They go to some sort of police tribunal. They get put back on duty.
That's what I disagree with. No, and for me, this is the difference. We literally have to know what the situation is. To say that if you beat somebody, you're out, really does a disservice to the cops, because they've got a hard job, and sometimes in the course of their job, they have to apply force. And we need to understand what is going on and why they're applying the force. The problem is, it's really easy to say, that guy is a thug, and we needed to apply force just because he's a thug, as opposed to saying, that guy was fighting back, that guy presented a threat to us, and we had to apply force.
Despite the fact the guy is face down on the ground with 2 heavy people sitting on him, and then they kill him.
But you
I mean-
understand, once you see that video, you understand how the rationales that cops are required to use to do their job can be corrupted. What I'm saying is, cops have a hard job to do, and
They do. And they're scared shitless
with
because of their training. I think a lot of it is the training. The training is meant to scare the crap out of them in order that they fire first and ask questions later. And you got to look at these training companies that are making a fortune out of this, because they're not doing anybody a favor.
I agree. So for me, it's essentially those three things. We bring back community policing. We bring better training, better understanding of threat negotiation or threat reduction to the police force, and make police more accountable for the
At
reputation
least look
of the
into
police.
and log incidents
Yeah, publicly.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, this leads me to another question I'd like to ask, and we're having a sort of more intimate conversation this evening.
Oh yeah.
Why is it that some people, particularly legislators, and the conservative, far-right conservatives, many religious people, just say no to things?
Huh?
Isn't that the definition of a conservative?
They just say no. For example, medical marijuana. There's a body of research showing that painkiller abuse and overdosing is lower in states where medical marijuana laws. The studies have generally assumed that when medical marijuana is available, pain patients are increasingly choosing pot over powerful and deadly prescription narcotics. And is there a secret thing going on by some of the big pharma companies who actually don't want to see medical marijuana?
It's going to cut down their profits, isn't it?
Kansas Democratic Rep. John Wilson never thought he'd take up marijuana as a legislative cause, but when he had the struggles of a family in his district, a kid, her name's Charlotte actually, was having 43 seizures a day. 43 seizures a day. Her parents moved to Colorado, medical marijuana. She's now down to 2 or 3 times a month. Now.
She's learning to walk at the age of 6. Can you imagine trying to learn to walk when you're having a seizure more than every half an hour? You can't do it. You spend your whole time trying to recover and live.
It seems that on average, doctors in medical marijuana states are prescribing 1,800 less prescriptions a month than they were doing for painkillers. Where people
the patients are so high they can't get up.
I know, far out and freaky. What I'm trying to get at is the marijuana laws came in the 1920s. And there are these rules that we have here in America, and I chose to live here. So as I always say when I'm on the radio with my producer, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Oh, yeah.
But isn't it time to have another look at these things and actually have a look at it rather than saying, I'm disgusted, there will not... Marijuana? Good God. What is the world coming to? And putting the police to a huge amount of trouble, pulling cars over, particularly our coloured brethren who...
Did you say coloured?
I said coloured brethren. Yeah, bastard.
Really?
I said coloured.
Okay.
Coloured brethren from
Okay.
places like Placido Domingo and other states.
Like?
What I'm getting at is, isn't it time for people to start to think a little bit? Not everybody who rides a motorbike is a criminal. Not everybody who wants to take medical marijuana for their kiddie to stop them fitting is a criminal.
Not everybody who wants to smoke pot in order to ease the pain of rheumatoid arthritis or to help with your glaucoma is a criminal.
I see. I actually disagree with you guys. As long as it's illegal, they're criminal. So
okay, right. Well, most people have driven over the speed limit, so everybody in this country is
jails next to
already.
murderers.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
No. So for me, the question isn't okay. I'm sorry. Got to step back. Got to not make sure I'm not mincing my words.
No, don't mince your words. No, don't. We like you, but not that much.
When you say that people need to start thinking about these things, I think you're
better.
doing them a disservice. Again, I think that if you are conservative, that means by the definition of conservative, you want to keep things the way they are. You don't want to engage in unnecessary change. Now, that doesn't mean that they're dumb. It means that they have an outlook that's different from ours, and it's kind of up to us to convince them that there is sufficient evidence, sufficient reason to look at change, that they really should look at it. And I happen to think that we're there. I really, really feel like not only should marijuana be legal, I feel like there's a whole list of drugs that are currently listed as illegal that we should have unfettered access to. I feel like the problems that you just talked about with marijuana pale in comparison to the problems that the criminalization of marijuana creates. I feel like you would disable a huge portion of organized crime by making a lot of these drugs less legal. I feel like we
By
would,
organized crime, do you include doctors and big pharma?
you know what, I really should.
Yeah.
But it's examples I have plenty of them. Another example would be that in the state of Kansas, where we're broadcasting from, it is illegal, if you are under the age of 21, to drink a can of Bud Light.
Right.
It's illegal.
Right.
Having said that, you are allowed to drive a multi-million-dollar battle tank.
Mm-hmm.
You can command a multi-million-dollar battle tank in action, but you're not allowed to drink a can of Bud Light.
So I agree with you, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for just a second here.
Is this because you've always wanted to be Luther?
Exactly. Yes. You guys watch the
yeah.
the Lucifer show.
Good.
I do
or
like
Lucifer.
The show.
I was thinking
Lucifer.
You were
Lucifer.
Not
thinking
Luther.
Luther.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
thinking Lucifer. Yeah.
He meant
Yeah.
Lucifer.
Sorry,
But
I
he's
do
a
like
lot
that show.
taller than you, and he's
Yeah, well,
Welsh and better looking.
Well, that
Ooh.
last part can be argued with. But anyway, there is a reason.
Now tell us what you really think.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Okay.
You
us
can
what you
drive. He still says it better. I'm sorry.
I can't do it with a Welsh accent, you'll see.
You are
us
allowed
what
to
you
drive a multi-million-dollar vehicle or fly a multi-billion-dollar plane when you're in the military, because that does not impinge on your reasoning faculty. And your reasoning faculty still grows when you are in your teens and through your 20s, actually.
What was that comment?
That was a whatever from the peanut gallery.
You've done it again.
However,
What's this peanut? Can
I said
you stay away?
peanut. Peanut. God damn it.
Finish your thought, Dr.
However,
Orlando.
your mind is still growing. Your mind is still forming. You're still developing rational abilities that you didn't have when you were 16, when you're 18. And that actually continues through your mid-20s. So the reason that we arbitrarily picked the number 21 for when you're able to drink, I don't know. But
Did you honestly think that was part of the reasoning?
I think that without question was part of the reasoning. I'm not sure that
I
was...
think it was a senseless and totally arbitrary number of just nope, you're not allowed to do that till you're 21. What the hell?
Oh, I thought it was
That's-
because of binge drinking and when you go away to college.
Yeah, that's
No.
pretty
If you're
cynical.
18, 19, and
Kath.
20, you're going to drink.
Yeah,
You're going to
no.
use
This
alcohol.
was way before so many people started going away to college. Yeah.
I will say-
I have. Oh, sorry. After you.
Just to your point on guys in combat, I bet on their off day, if they are overseas in combat, I bet they're 18-year-olds having a drink of beer. I
But
think
can't
people
you
are
drink?
looking away.
Can't you
They
drink
can't
on?
legally.
You can't drink on base at 18.
It's probably not legal, and they've actually banned it in some cases, in some bases overseas.
So
but
say
those
you
are
probably
bases
arrest
where
them.
no, those are bases.
but everyone's
where-
looking away
Uh-huh.
in these instances.
Yeah. Well, and I think for a large percentage, they look away here. I mean, you can
Until something bad happens.
until something bad happens.
Or until you turn black.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
you can. There's a lot of stuff you can't do while you're black.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, like I've actually wanted a conceal and carry license
Yeah.
ever since they became available here in Kansas. When the guy, I don't remember which guy it was, that got shot while giving his telling the officer that he had
Oh,
a concealed
right.
carry
Yes.
license, it's like fuck that.
Oh yeah.
I am done.
It's gonna make problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
geez.
when you get pulled over by the police, you wear your hat, Could you keep your license and everything in your hat? You know, I mean, would that
No, if he
make
reached
it
for his hat,
less,
he'd probably be
less
shot.
likely to get
That's
shot?
the problem. It's not that I have to be reaching into my wallet. It's just that making any sudden moves because
reach
I'm
at all.
Yeah, exactly. If I am not literally sitting there, hands at 10 and 2 on the wheel, being perfectly still, waiting for instructions from the policeman, I could very well be shot. And the problem is, I can still be shot even if I'm doing exactly what the policeman said. And I don't think very many people recognize how literally ingrained in our society this notion is that if you are black, you are dangerous and need to be
Yeah.
handled or put down if you're not gentle enough.
Yeah.
So it's
It's scary.
it is a very, very scary place. And I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son that are completely oblivious to this right now. And I'm not at all sure when to tell them that, for my son, you've got to be careful with whatever you do, because if you're dealing with a person in authority, they're going to automatically assume that you are being defiant just because you are
That'd
who
be a
you
hard
are.
thing to have to
Do you
teach
know what
a
I
kid.
think I would find interesting, and I'd be really interested in what your thought about this is. Where you live, they there is a police station, and you can walk into the police
Oh, yeah,
station,
I've been
and
there.
there's a counter.
I've been there,
Right. So I'd be very
like
interested.
voluntarily.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if you took your how old son,
6.
6-year-old son, and you take him in there, and you walk up to the desk sergeant or whoever it is and say, "Hi, my kid's getting up now, and they're an age. I need to have a conversation with them about how to interact with the police and people in authority. Can you help me with that?"
I don't. I'm not sure that discussion helps anymore. That's kind of I just described to you guys exactly what I need to do in order to make sure that I don't get shot. And then I ended that statement with, I can do all of that stuff, and I can still be shot.
Yeah.
So what that conversation that you just described, Jeremy, does is it is that community building exercise, and it is good for that reason. But as far as being helpful to my son in a situation where he doesn't know what's going on and the cop doesn't know what's going on and somebody ends up dead because of it, it really goes from cop to cop.
You know, I had a headline that kind of related to all this. My game is to find headlines and take out one of the words and see if you guys can guess what they were.
Oh, I thought that was because you just never got round to reading the whole story.
Yeah, that's the shtick, but it's not. I found
Oh.
a headline that went like this: blood pouring from 3-year-old boy after vicious attack blank.
Pokemon.
Not Pokemon.
Trump.
Vicious attack, and the first word is by, of the blacked out part. Vicious attack by,
His sister.
no. It's actually squirrels. This is in the UK, and what I've got to point out is that he's lucky he was in the UK, because in the UK, squirrels are only armed with knives.
Yeah.
If it
This
had
is
been
true.
here, they'd have had AK-47s.
Yeah.
The kid would not be here.
In fact, squirrels in England are very bright, and they operate to the Mission
Are
Impossible
you now
tune.
saying that the American squirrels are dumb? Motherfucker.
No, but American squirrels
Squirrel
are armed.
exceptionalism.
They
Going to
carry
praise
AS-47s, which is very similar to the AK-47, but they're a squirrel version and smaller. They tend also to be silenced, but not many humans know that.
Yeah, bullets are acorns.
They're designed actually to deal with cats. And so to us, it would be rather like carrying a bazooka because there's an elephant chasing
Okay, now
us.
he's just getting silly.
The furry
Yeah.
elephant.
Jeremy getting silly.
Yeah, well, I blame this whole headline on Brexit myself.
Which leads me to an old and established joke about why did the elephant pick up the rabbit?
I don't know, Jeremy. Why
Because
did
the rabbit said to the elephant said to the rabbit, "Why is it when I poop, the poop just drops out because I got leathery skin, and when you poop and you're all covered in fur, why doesn't the poop stick?" And the rabbit says, "I don't know." That's just how it is. So the elephant used his trunk and picked up. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's carry on.
Oh dear.
I wanted to know, and there's a different age range here. Well, we talked about all sorts of different things as how we should deal, our parents telling us how we should deal with the Rozzers, the fuzz, the police. We used to call them the fuzz. We didn't call them pigs. We used to call them the fuzz. Was it better before? As we slide into our 40s and 50s and 60s, are our parents' values slowly and inexorably becoming our values? Because
No.
I find myself often thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm my father.
No. There's way too many things on which you differ from your father. There's things in which I differ from my father. My father, every time something about homosexuality was mentioned, would shudder and go, because in his generation, it was not talked about and was not accepted. Completely different now. Things evolve as times evolve.
So I'm gonna again play devil's advocate because I largely agree with what you just said.
And you want to
Kath.
be Lucifer.
And I want to be Lucifer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that it's
Tell
a
us
little
what you
bit
really
more
think.
subtle. I
What you
think
really
that
feel.
you actually do maintain your parents' values. I think that what changes is the societal. What is societally acceptable? So whereas homosexuality wasn't even talked about when I was a kid, right now every kid, if any of us have kids that are my age, 6 and 9, the kids have parents that, the kids have classmates that have two mommies or two daddies.
Yeah.
It is just a way of life. I'm not sure that means that the value that said that you grew up with is not ingrained.
But is this
in you.
because America is such a young country?
No, I don't think this particular thing has anything to do with the age of
in
America.
England, for instance, homosexuality has been perfectly legal 1,000 or 2,000 years ago.
Oh, come
The
on.
Romans who lived in England, lots of them,
And who was the
yeah.
famous poet?
and built a wall. By the way, we had a wall before Trump even thought about it.
The original
Um,
hipsters.
And it was Alan Turing. Who
Alan
was
Turing.
it?
Yeah,
Alan
but
Turing.
that was just a short period in our time
Yeah.
when people got very conservative. All I'm saying is, was it better before? Was those Christmases, that we look back on, in my case to the 70s, and then sort of bringing it around.
in the 70s, you were 40.
Well, that's true. But were things better before? Are we starting to adopt things that our parents believed? And I bet we are. I certainly find myself often thinking, bastard's son's stolen one of my tools.
Okay, maybe
And he hasn't, but I
characteristics.
still blame him
That's
for
what
it.
I think. I think it's characteristics.
Yeah. How
But
about you, Eric? Do you think you're becoming in your feelings about stuff
In your twilight years.
more
Yes.
like your parents?
Yes, I do. I believe I did everything in my power as a young man to rebel against them, but then I'm slowly finding myself agreeing with them and a lot more, acting like them a lot more.
I put
But I
it
think
to
it's
you, Eric, that you
youth.
are an old
Yeah.
curmudgeon.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would like to act a lot more like my mother, who I recognize as way wiser than I am and much more tolerant, and but I can't because I'm not that tolerant. And sometimes I get pissed off with people.
Have
And
you guys
so,
done?
so I would put it to you that you are an old curmudgeon.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
never
an old
argue that
curmudgeon.
point.
So,
No,
Lewis,
not at all. Not at all.
You're an old curmudgeon.
No, I still like to listen to the pop music.
That's because you're
I'm all
really
good.
Lucifer and you'll never age.
That's right.
But there's music out there that I have no idea what's going on. I used to think I was tuned in.
Uh-huh.
I am so clueless.
Yeah, I am really I wouldn't even know who the current Carson Daly TRL analog would be, but that's really.
So I take it you will be going to see Culture Club when they play locally.
You know
in
what?
the
I
near
missed
future.
Public Enemy. I would feel bad going to see Culture Club after having missed Public Enemy. It seems somehow sacrilegious.
Well, I still think I'm an old curmudgeon, and 3 out of 4 is not bad.
Here's how you can find it. Have you guys done the family vote tally in your head yet? Have you gone around your immediate close family and thought, okay, my brother will vote for X or Trump, or my sister will vote for Hillary? Tally that up and see if your family cancels each other out.
I don't think
Oftentimes
so.
it will.
No, I don't think
My family will
any of
cancel
my
each other out.
family's quite dumb enough to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
But there might be other people
Go through the list,
that
yeah.
are not. They're not going to necessarily vote Democratic, but I don't think any of them are going to go that far.
I like our independent candidates a lot. I just like the progressive tickets, and although I am, I just found out about the Vox interviews that they did with the candidates. Have you seen these?
No.
Okay, I'll send you a link. There's a bunch of interviews that they actually did with Obama, with Hillary, with Bernie. They couldn't get the orange-faced one to sit down with them, but 35 to 45-minute interviews where the Vox interviewers asking them rather pointed questions, and you get
Right.
some pretty non-scripted answers.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
This is interesting. It's and as I say, from a very young age, I've been impressed with the values that you work hard for, and I want a life where your word is your bond and you do what you say. I think this is important, that you treat people with respect, and this is something I've passed on to my children and the generations of Taylors that will follow, because I want my children, and all the children, in fact, of this nation and state, to know that the only limit to their achievements is the strength of their dream and their willingness to work to own a bar similar to the one we're sitting in, or to drive an Aston Martin.
Here, here, Jeremy. Here,
Very well
here.
I
thought
would
out.
like to say thank
Very
you
well
to
done.
our producer and editor, Eric
Original,
Holcomb,
too.
engineer Neil Rasmussen, and of course Conroy, for letting us sit here in this sleazy hole that is known as a pub
He heard that. We're out of here.
to avoid slipping on the cold steak fries that have been here for at least 15 years. So it's from me, your host, Jeremy Taylor. I'd like to thank you for joining in, but you didn't. And don't forget to check in on our shows live on KLWN 1320 AM, because we're old curmudgeons, particularly on Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 AM Central. Or you can go to the site, Wednesday Night Undress.
Yay.